Good morning, podcast listeners. Welcome to the Chamber Connections, connecting business with the community. Today, we have the pleasure of sitting down with Dr. Jeckell. Dr. Jeckell's specialty is psychiatry, and we want to welcome him to the podcast. Welcome this morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
We are great. Thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of the podcast segment, Workplace 365. And I think in light of where we are in our community, this topic and having you on is right in line for, I think, a lot of people.
Yeah. It's been a wild ride these past 2 years. So hopefully I can, shed some light to what people are experiencing, stress, anxiety, all that kind of stuff in this COVID world we're in.
Yes, I think any nuggets that you can share will definitely be very helpful. So we'll go ahead and we'll dive right in. So what are the things that you're seeing on the mental health front right now, especially having COVID still lingering around in our community?
Yeah, it's been tough. So, I myself am seeing a lot of people struggling with anxiety, depression, uncertainty. Specifically, I tend to work with younger people. So there's a lot of we're at this weird transition point where kids are going back to school, adults are going back to the workplace, and there's a lot of anxiety and uncertainty about what that looks like. Nationally, we're at this weird stage in this progression of the pandemic where if you look outside, it looks like it's getting back to normal a little bit. People are less likely to be wearing masks. They're going back to restaurants. We're going back to school and work and everything. But the pandemic is still very much going on. Last estimate, as many as 2,000 people a day are dying because of this. Hospitals are overwhelmed, and it's happening. It's in a very real way. So when we look outside and things look like they're getting back to normal, but we turn on the news or we talk to our doctor friends and they're all still really worried, it causes this cognitive dissonance in our brains, and that makes us feel uncomfortable and unsettled. We don't really know what the future's going to bring. We don't know how fall is going to be. 60% of adults have reported an increase of anxiety in the past 2 years. Over 50% have reported depression. Kids are missing school. Their summer vacations and plans have been kind of thrown out the window because you can't travel quite as well. So I'm seeing a lot of stress. Fortunately, in child psychiatry, I haven't been seeing a lot of substance abuse, but I know that nationally statistics on people using alcohol and other illicit substances to kind of cope and self-medicate throughout this has been on the rise. So it's concerning. I think the one positive is that because it has been so hard, people are really eager to shine a light on mental health and are more open and willing to talking about it in a big way. And I think that's an important step towards destigmatizing mental illness and, more importantly, getting mental health care. That's the silver lining to what we're seeing.
No, totally. And that's so true. And I've heard people talk about how watching the news or reading the paper, how it really impacts their mood, and really being able to move and be able to separate yourself sometimes from all of that's going on in the world, to be able to have that balance of peace of mind,
Yeah, it's tough.
Let's talk about stress versus anxiety, because people have been using that word a lot. Can you talk to us a little bit about the definitions and what it means? Because sometimes people just use these words. I'm even hearing children use these words lately. I'm stressed. And I'm thinking, do you know what stress is? What are some of those signs that people may be seeing in not only themselves and their loved ones, but maybe even in their children?
Yeah. So stress and anxiety, they're similar. Anxiety is a term that we actually use. It has diagnostic value because you can have an anxiety disorder in psychiatry, and that's kind of like an umbrella term. There's lots of different kinds of anxiety disorder. There's generalized anxiety disorder. There's school phobia or social anxieties, specific phobias like I'm afraid of snakes. That would be an anxiety disorder kind of thing. Stress is really more of just a response to a stressor, a certain situation. I think what's important for people to understand is that stress and anxiety are both normal. They, to a point, are healthy. Those are human experiences without which we'd get into a lot of trouble. every time you got on the road and you weren't stressed about what would happen if you just went through that speed light or the red light or the stop sign, every time you got on the road, it would be mayhem. Stress is the reason you eat healthy. It's why you watch your cholesterol. It's why you do your homework assignment and study for that test and get that report your boss wants Friday morning on his desk at 8 a.m. Because if you didn't have stress or anxiety about doing those things, you wouldn't do it. But just like anything, like sadness or joy or anything, taken to a degree that causes impairment, we consider that pathological. So, we would say that stress or anxiety is a problem when it's out of proportion to the stressor or the whatever the trigger is, or if it's existing in the absence of something stressful. So, going back to 2018, take someone who had a very good life. There's no clear reason, but they just always feel anxious. That would be concerning. It's a little bit trickier now because everybody has something stressful going on. This past 2 years have been really stressful. It's like going back to the cognitive dissonance thing. We turn on the TV, we're getting mixed messages about things are getting back to normal. Oh no, things are getting worse. It has that cognitive dissonance that I was talking about. People that we typically could put a lot of trust in have been saying things that, weeks, months later turn out to just be wrong. So there's got to have been an erosion of trust and authority over the past couple of years that's been really difficult. We don't know who to turn to. To make that even worse is that there's so much disinformation put out there into the world to make things really confusing. Facts have been conflated with opinion, and up is down. We don't really know who or what to believe, so we don't really have a barometer for how we're supposed to feel. It's been a difficult time, and so just me explaining that, it's easy to see why stress and anxiety have been an issue for people over the past couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, more and more people are getting more in tune to their emotions and how one expresses them. Some people, like you said, may consume more alcohol. Some people may eat more. Some people just have all different ways of using it as an outlet. So what do you think should be some things that people should use to take care of themselves? Because yes, we're still in the middle of this. I think if you asked any of us, we thought by now we would have been on the other side, but we're still in it. What advice would you give to people to take care of themselves, to kind of keep that balance?
Yeah, such a great question. I think, talking about how we're being inundated with conflicting data and information, the first thing that I tell people is log off. Don't check the news quite as much. Be careful about how much social media that you're consuming. Make sure that the data and the information that you're getting is from a reliable and valid source. We kind of live in this time in history where a lot of news and information outlets, their agenda isn't necessarily getting us correct, valuable information. It's actually kind of getting us information that's going to get us coming back for more. So what I recommend for a lot of people is take a news and social media break. Maybe, it's important to be in touch with what's going on in the world. So give yourself a 15-minute news break during the day where you're allowed to go on a reliable and trusted news source, gather whatever information or data would be valuable or important for you to know about, and then just step back. It's gonna itch. You're gonna want to log back in, and they're gonna want you to log back in. But take a break. I think that kind of in the same vein with taking a step back from social media, it's important to connect with people in a real way, especially in times like this. It's easy to get on social media and browse through your news feed or whatever on Facebook and feel like I now know what's going on with these 10, 15 people. But you haven't connected with them at all. It's kind of this false illusion of connecting in a way that's actually making us more distant. So find a way to connect with people in a real way. Have a support network of people that you love and trust and can talk to. If you need to connect in a socially distant way, fortunately here in South Florida, we're starting maybe to feel a couple of tendrils of cooler weather creep down for us. Have a backyard get together where you can be socially distanced if you feel more comfortable that way, but connect in a real way. I'm a big believer in diet and exercise and sleep. So make sure that you're fueling your brain with good nutritious foods, dark leafy greens, good omega-3 rich proteins, avoiding, highly refined carbohydrates. I always tell people I work with, if you had a Lamborghini, you wouldn't put junk fuel into it. You'd get like the most high grade gasoline possible. Treat your body, your body's a Lamborghini. Treat your body like a Lamborghini. Sleep, don't have your cell phone or your tablet in your bedroom. Make your bedroom a place where you're going to get good, meaningful sleep and rest. Another one that I've been recommending people, especially with the mask stuff, is it's worth trying a 5-minute breathing exercise once a day. This is a time for you to take care of your mind as well as your body. It is an opportunity to take care of your mind as well as your body with sleep, exercise, and nutrition. So I recommend starting a mindfulness practice, 5 minutes where you just kind of, all you do is focus on your breathing. You can do something I recommend. It's called square breathing, where you for a 5 count or a 10 count or something, you take a deep breath in over the course of 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, exhale for 5 seconds, hold the exhale for 5 seconds, inhale. And all you're going to do for 5 minutes is just focus on your breathing. Your thoughts are going to wander. There's going to be distractions there. That's okay. You're not going to judge yourself. Just come back to the breathing. I found that really helpful because A, you're developing a mindfulness practice. B, when you put on your mask, it's just going to feel it. You can feel claustrophobic. You can feel like, masks, nobody wants to wear a mask. I hate wearing a mask. But, if I can regulate my breathing, if I can feel a little bit more calm with my breathing, wearing a mask, especially when it's like 95 degrees out with 95% humidity, does feel more comfortable.
No, I totally agree with you. Totally agree. And I think the information that you shared is really spot on, because I think everybody does feel a little anxiety and feel a little anxious with wearing a mask. And I've heard people, say that, it does make them feel a little claustrophobic, and they feel a little like, I just can't breathe. And you do have to take that time out and kind of take that deep breath. So I think that mindfulness piece is definitely key. I have one last question for you. As we continue to go through these times, when should one say, I need to seek professional help? When should I reach out? How much of this, because I know a lot of times we live in society where we want to Google everything. I'm feeling a little anxious. Oh, maybe I had too much caffeine, or I had too much coffee. And we like to self-diagnose. What are some signs and symptoms for our listeners in the event that they find themselves going, I think I need to take this a step further and reach out for professional help?
Yeah. You would never, in a circumstance like this, you'd never ever want to live with regret or end up in a position where you wish that you had reached out but didn't. And reaching out doesn't necessarily mean making an appointment with a psychiatrist or a specialist. That's kind of like the end of the line where you need to go to that specialist. But, if you're worried enough that you're questioning whether or not you should ask, ask your family physician, your family doctor, or, ask your parent or somebody that you trust. You never want to have to live with that self-doubt. Oh, should I act? Should I? Ask. The worst that could happen is it's nothing, but maybe it's something, and then you've gotten help.
Right.
As a rule of thumb, really for any condition, be it depression, anxiety, substance issues, anything that I deal with in the mental health domain, if it's causing impairment, if you can't go to school, if you can't go to work, if you've stopped doing the things you enjoy doing because of it, you want to get some help. If the anxiety or depression is way out of proportion to whatever is triggering it, if you can't go to summer camp, or if you're missing your vacation because of COVID, it's natural and normal and healthy to feel sad. But if the sadness is so significant that you start losing weight, that you stop eating so much that you can't sleep, and starts really affecting your life, absolutely reach out for help. When I have people ask me what should they be on the lookout for, the big red flags that I always tell people: big changes in personality, changes in hobbies. So like, your friend really loves building, model cars or whatever, and all of a sudden they don't care about that anymore. They're giving away their model cars. Erratic behavior, any signs of self-harm. In younger populations, cutting, self-injury is actually not uncommon. People making plans, giving things away, that would be really alarming. It would be a red flag and definitely an indicator that reaching out for help would be appropriate.
Well, thank you so much. Well, that's all we have for this segment. And if any of our listeners are interested in following up and having some conversations with Dr. Jeckell, you can contact him through the Broward Health Medical System. We appreciate you taking the time, and we thank you for all of the information that you shared, knowing that this will be hopefully something that our listeners can take away and be able to implement. Any last words from you, Doctor?
No, thank you so much. This was a great conversation.
All right. Thank you so much. My name is Charinus Davis, and I am signing off for the Chamber Connects.